Hey folks, and welcome to episode 16 of Skinconomy. Absolutely insane that 4 months have already flown by for this new show. I always think that it's something I've just started recently and feels very recent, but it's, the year is flying by quickly. Anyway, we're going to jump in today with a bit of a discussion surrounding the Cologne Major Sticker Store. There was this fantastic article written by Mirror and published on HLTV earlier in the week that has been gaining quite a bit of traction, a lot of discussion online about it. So just want to touch on a couple of the key points, how that's impacting the scene, what the implications are on whether or not there'll be a sticker sale, and how we might be able to use this information as well and extrapolate a little bit. So I won't go and read through the whole article. However, if you'd like to take a closer look, it'll be, I'm pretty sure, front page of HLTV at the moment. But one of the main paragraphs here, I'll just start reading it out for you guys listening in a podcast format. I don't know why I pronounce podcast like that. But essentially, one of the teams to exit the major in stage 1 told HLTV that they had made approximately $60,000 or $120,000 if you consider the same amount went to the players under the new 50-50 system from the sale of items. SkinSwap is giving you a skin worth up to $50 entirely for free when you complete your first trade using the link in the description. If you want to upgrade your loadout, you can trade your skins for brand new ones in just a few clicks. Plus, their market tab now includes the cheapest offers from Chinese marketplaces, so you can access the best skin prices without needing a Chinese ID or bank account. You can deposit using card, Cash App, or crypto, and if you ever want to cash out, SkinSwap makes it easy with instant sell to PayPal, Venmo, or crypto. They also run free daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways, and every completed trade earns you extra chances to win. Use the link below to claim your free skin with up to $50 and receive a 3% lifetime sales bonus. Thanks again to SkinSwap for supporting the channel. This pales in comparison to the figures from Budapest, where contender sticker capsules made around $600,000 before any split with the players. A stage 2 organization reported earning just over $120,000 from Cologne so far. This is really vital because a lot of the discussion I've seen is essentially just comparing these two numbers, the $60,000 and $600,000. We're going to come back to that in just a moment, but just keep that in the back of your mind there. A couple of the other things as well. It's a really long article overall, but it is having significant implications on organizations, especially smaller ones who kind of use that major sticker money or kind of bank on receiving some form of sticker money to actually make their business operations viable. So for instance, there's a quote from the Sinners co-founder. He's saying, from the first moment I knew this was going to be a disaster. But yeah, essentially it's been more than 6 years after entering the game with a local lineup, finally able to qualify for Cologne. And yeah, obviously very excited about that. However, it seems like the financial payoff has been fairly underwhelming. Another quote here, and this is from a stage 1 organization. However, they asked to remain anonymous. They made significant investment in players with a view of making it to the major, hoping that this would recoup most of the money it had spent on the transfer with the sticker payout. This expectation has now collapsed entirely. This is a quote from the representative from the organization. Of course, sticker revenue was never fully predictable. No one knew exactly how much money would come out in the end or if you qualified. But if you qualified for a major and received that revenue, you could build around it. You could invest in infrastructure, develop young talent, strengthen your organization, and also support higher player salaries. That opportunity has now largely disappeared. Another key point as well, and probably a big point of tension for the players and organizations themselves right at the start of the major. Of course, Valve, in their typical style, did not give any forewarning about this change coming in. So previously, actually, let me just go on a little bit of a history dive here very quickly, just to explain for those of you who aren't familiar with how the system worked in the past. Essentially, to the best of my knowledge, there was always a 50-50 revenue split between Valve and the team/players. So essentially, when you bought a sticker capsule in the store, 50% of the cost went to Valve, 50% of it went to the teams and players. However, the way that 50% split amongst the organization and players was shared was based on contract negotiation. So there was no official guidelines or rules or anything like that from Valve into how that had to be distributed. However, that has now changed. The 50% of the revenue that gets shared with a team/player now has to be split evenly amongst the organization and then the 5 players. The other thing that's important is instead of the revenue being shared according to the sticker capsule that you are part of, so in the past, people obviously wanted to get further through the major because if you got into the challenger capsule, you got into the legends capsule, sorry, obviously that paid out more historically. However, now it is based on the final standing and from when the start of the store, when the store is released and when the tournament is over, before essentially you have locked in a position or exited the tournament, it will be based on VRS rankings. The percentages here as well, very interesting. I remember I've mentioned it before, but yeah, the tournament organizer themselves gets 5%. They get nearly double than what the first place team gets. Of course, they also have a prize pool or whatever, so it probably just helps to cover that a little bit. But these are the percentage split. So it starts at 2.85% for first place, 2.53 for second, 2.25 for third and fourth, all the way down to just 0.72% for those who are knocked out 0-3 in the first stage of the tournament. Another organization that has clearly suffered from this, Gaming Gladiators, has pulled the plug on their CS division, citing recent changes to the major ecosystem and revenue structure. However, towards the end of the article, and rightfully so, they have mentioned that a month on from the Cologne final, there's still no word on a sale, which has historically been a big driver of revenue. Sticker sales have nearly ground to a halt. One Stage 1 team told HLTV that it's earning around $100 a day. $100 a day, that's it? That is crazy, man. However, there's actually a bit of information that, while not explicitly stated in the article, I think we can actually deduce with the numbers we've got. So if we take the $60,000, right, that this Stage 1 team has said that they earned. We're obviously trying to take them on their word for it. It's not necessarily, entirely precise, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. If we take that $60,000 and then we go to the distribution, the way the money is distributed, let's just take the midpoint of like a Stage 1 team. So let's say they just got eliminated in 27th position, for instance. I don't know exactly where, so there could be some variance somewhere between 1% and 0.72%. We'll just take rough midpoints here, that 0.81. And if we just do that little calculation there, $60,000 divided by 0.81%, so 0.0081, that's roughly $7.4 million total as a rough prediction or estimation of how much money has been spent in the Cologne Major store so far. Just very quickly, I thought I will pull up this graph. This is from a podcast with Nero, Note, and Messioso, where HLTV has tried to provide some rough estimates of the total sticker money of prior tournaments. So you can see that this is also just the payout to teams. So in theory, you should be able to roughly double these, since Valve historically got 50%. So for instance, Paris, obviously the huge outlier there, over $100 million. So we can expect that the total sales were above 200 million. Even Rio, 25 million there, so roughly 50 million total. Antwerp and Stockholm, actually very similar. I'm going to guess maybe about 35 million. Berlin, quite low. But then obviously some of the more recent tournaments after Paris, Copenhagen and Shanghai sitting at just under the $50 million mark. So $100 million total. Austin and Budapest, quite similar, sitting at roughly 25 million, so about $50 million total. So if right now we are only sitting at 7.4 million, that is significantly lower than the 50 that we've seen in the last couple. However, key point here, we have not yet had a sale. So let's jump in and tackle that for just a moment. I'm giving away an AK-47 Vulcan in Field Tested this month. For your chance to win, simply like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. I'll pick the winner on July 31st. Good luck. So I have shared this graph and table before. It's essentially just a summary of all of the prior majors that have had a sticker store, how long the stickers were available in total, how long they were on sale, and also the gap between the date of the grand final and when the sticker sale actually started. So a couple of interesting points here, but the main thing I want to discuss today, I've already done a bit of a deeper dive into this a couple of weeks back, if memory serves me right. Out of the last 6 tournaments: Rio, Paris, Copenhagen, Shanghai, Austin, and Budapest. The average gap, so the number of days between the grand final and when the sticker sale started, was about 35 days. The shortest was at Copenhagen, 26 days. Still about 4 weeks. The longest was for Austin at 53 days. So just a little under 2 months actually. But if we take the average of 35 days, 35 days after the 21st of June, which was the grand final, would actually put us at today, the day this video is being released. So July 26th. Therefore, if we're going to see a sale, and I think we're going to see a sale given these catastrophic numbers, it could be coming any day. And with that in mind, having a little look at this over the last couple of weeks, thinking about it, some of you will have seen a video where I was talking about flipping major stickers, arbitrage, etc. Can you actually profit from reselling the stickers? I've been doing a bunch of that over the last few weeks. I have now pretty much sold all of my stickers, even some at a slight loss for the moment, simply because I strongly believe there'll be a sale. I don't see any world in which they're at roughly $7 million. Let's say we're way out and it's double that, which it probably isn't, let's be real. But even if they're at 15 million, it is nowhere close to some of the recent tournaments, as we saw in that prior graph, that are more like 50. Nowhere close. So I'm set on that they are going to find a way to boost sales there. Now look, I am very happy about that overall. I mean, I would also be happy if they didn't run a sale. I don't mind. I do think it's going to really hurt the esports side of things, but from a perspective of trying to make some money from these things, supply seems to be king, and actually we're seeing that with the armory collections play out as well this week, so we're going to have a look at that afterwards. But if supply is really low, that is a great thing. I think overall the stickers do look good. People like the stickers, they just don't want to pay $800 for them, right? I mean, fair enough, I don't want to either. So I'm hoping that if there is a sale, people are still going to be hesitant to buy in, and we can profit from that. So yeah, I'm expecting, if I had to make a prediction, I'd say that a sale drops in the next 2 weeks, to be honest. And yeah, we'll have to see how things go. I did also see this kind of breakdown of it by Zeus, who is a very, very, very famous coach. I actually don't know what team he's coaching right now, but he was the Team Liquid coach for a while, I think back in 2018, 2019. I think he was also the coach during Luminosity and SK's reign back in 2015, 2016 as well. Yeah, I'm not I don't follow everything super closely, but I think that's right. And if anyone wants to correct me, please let me know in the comments. But yeah, just a couple of, put things into perspective as well, which I think are important. So let me just highlight a couple of things that he said here. He started off by highlighting that most reactions to this change are collapsing 3 separate changes into one number. Valve changed how fans buy stickers, how players and orgs split the money, and how major revenue is distributed. Some parts may be overdue, others clearly failed. So a few thoughts from someone who has clearly lived inside the economy. And honestly, the first part of this is really where I think there should be some attention and a bit of a perspective change. He said that first, the 10x drop being repeated is not a clean comparison. If the old figure was 600k before the player split and the new org received 60k after a mandatory 50-50 split, the comparable new total is 120k. 600k to 120k is still brutal. It is a 5x drop, it just is not the same claim. An individual org may have lost more depending on its old contract, but then part of that difference is less revenue, and part is the new guaranteed player share. Those should not be hidden inside one number. Sticker splits were already wildly distorted behind the scenes. During our MIBR period, we negotiated around 95% for the players. Incredible for us, almost ruinous for the org. Later, I saw deals move heavily in the other direction, with some orgs keeping 70 to 80%. So a mandatory 50-50 split is obviously not just bad. Both players and orgs create the value. But the fan side clearly failed too. I bought the pass, came one step short of a diamond coin, and earned almost every token I could. I still could not get one genuinely desirable premium sticker from a top player or team. Valve removed random access, but it may have also removed affordable access. Anyway, pretty much it goes on to talk a little bit about the lawsuits, why things are changing. Valve is not operating in a vacuum, obviously. And there's obviously like several changes coming in at once, so you need to consider how all of those things are kind of playing their part separately and then all together. He pretty much concluded by saying that the old sticker system had unhealthy mechanics that produced healthy outcomes for parts of the scene. The new system contains healthy ideas that so far have produced unhealthy outcomes. We should not choose which contradiction to ignore. So I think that's just a kind of nice way to put things into perspective. The player share and everything has an impact on those numbers. So realistically, if it's actually 120k, that would be double from our calculation earlier. So perhaps that means it is actually more at like 15 million. Either way, we're still far off from the 50 that we mentioned earlier. But yes, kind of like a slightly different perspective. And obviously, it is important to remember that many things have changed here. It is not just one factor. So all those things are good to keep in mind. Of course, very quickly, as always, I want to mention this is not professional financial advice. CS2 skins are virtual items and can be highly volatile. Past performance is not indicative of future results, so please do your own further research and consider your financial position before making any decisions. Anyway, I think we'll move on now from the from all that Cologne talk. However, to summarize, lower revenue so far for the teams and players, although the split has changed. That's also kind of messing with the numbers. I would expect a sale within the next kind of 2 weeks or so. Maybe it takes them a little while if they're figuring it out, but historically, about now would be the time it arrives. If it does drop, I think I'll definitely be buying into some stickers. There are obviously certain ones that are more popular than others. Even if you're thinking about that Thunder Down Under, and who knows if that sticker ever comes back. From my understanding, it was just a bunch of players. It's like an orgless team. It was literally just 5 players who got themselves to the major from OCE. So yeah, maybe that's a one-off logo, so it could be an interesting buy. And also, given how expensive a lot of the stickers were, there just won't be many in circulation. There's no Donk Golds dropping at 25 cents if you got lucky from a capsule. You had to go out and spend, maybe $100 at the start, up to $1,000 at the end. So yeah, I'm happy to see. I'm excited to see what happens with the store from like the investing perspective. Kind of sad from the esports side of things, but we'll just have to see how that evolves. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, or come have a chat about it with us on Discord as well, and what'll be the impact of this moving forward. One thing I wanted to quickly mention is not a big news point, but I saw this Desert Eagle printstream craft that has been just exploding over the last day. So depending on whether or not this keeps going, or how hype it really gets, if you have any of these warning stickers from the new Jackass capsule, they are currently spiking in price. They were sitting down at 15 cents Australian, so about 10 cents a couple of days ago USD, all the way up to about, let's say, $1.80 USD, $2.50 Australian. As this craft has been circulating online, pretty much you scrape the sticker and it just becomes entirely white. You pop it on the print stream to hide some of the details, and it pretty much becomes a Desert Eagle whiteout. So do what you will with that information. Let's have a little look then at the trending skins, and this will be an easy segue into the armory discussion as well, because as you can actually see, out of all the skins we have in the game, some of the top gainers this week are from the new Spy Tech collection, which is not what I think a lot of people are expecting. They saw those day one prices. They thought, oh, this is crap. Let's just cash out, get rid of everything. It's only downhill from now. And then actually, the black box in Battle Scarred is up 99% this week. The MAC-10 video cam up 95.6%. The well-worn black box up 91%. Actually, we've got the MAC-10 Surfwood in factory. Wait, is this actually at $31 right now? If this is at $31, my armory investments are about to be saved, because I have a couple hundred of these. Holy! The MAC-10 Surfwood, it's time. It's pumping. It's pumping. Okay, I don't know where the rest of them are, but there's some of them in this storage unit, as you can see. So you've seen me live realize that there's a pump going on, and I'm about to cash out some of this stuff. Actually, all of these skins here are from St. Mark. They're all factory new, so Might have to see if any of those have been impacted as well. But I'm sure I have more in another storage unit. But as you can see, I've got a ton of storage units, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to find. But yeah, that is good news for me. I feel like it's one of those things. So often you see the price pumps and you're like, I don't know what this skin is, man. Like, I never bought that, but you know, kind of funny to see a skin at the top of the charts, which is one that you're holding, and actually up to $30 a piece. I'm definitely going to start selling some of those off. I kind of like I would DCA into things. You can essentially, as I've explained in prior episodes, if something is pumping, I would just progressively sell some off so you can recoup your initial capital and just run with some profits. And depending if it keeps pumping or not, you can just keep selling. Like, also depends on the quantity, but you can just sell like one each week or one each day or whatever the time frame is you want to set yourself. Can be a good way to go about it. But yeah, actually a ton of skins. Some are okay, of course, from the Arabesque as well. The Tech 9 Sultan is up 76%. Arabesque Mosaic Factory New up to $4. So a lot of the new skins here. And yeah, we'll have a little chat about that in just a moment, why I think that is the case. Tech 9 Titanium Bit is up 45% this week. We're seeing some weird skins. What was it? Was it the blue titanium Galil that we saw, I think, a week or two ago? That was up significantly. But okay, that is definitely seeing a price rise past $50 now. The Tech 9 blue titanium from the Weapon Case 3. Man, it's crazy. I'm literally scrolling down. Pretty much every single skin. There's a couple stickers here, but if we exclude the stickers, pretty much like 40, 50. The top 50 items this week that are up the most are all from the new collections. That is insane. I'm going to be real. I did not expect that significant change. But I think one that's interesting to look at, how's the M4 Phallic doing? The M4 Phallic minimal wear, definitely up a little bit, but not massively. The field-tested Phallic went from roughly $30 on day one, although you could definitely get them for cheaper than this. And I was picking up a bunch of low-float field-tested at about $18 from memory, maybe a little more, maybe $21. But then it went all the way up to $48. Now it's come down again slightly. And I am very curious to see how the prices go this week moving forward, because you can imagine that there were a bunch of people who thought that they saw an opportunity on day one. So that was the 16th of July. And then now, essentially over the next few days, those are going to be coming off trade hold. So these 276 Phallics that were sold just on CS Float, of course, there's all the other platforms as well. All of those could potentially be coming back to the market. Some will be for play skins, some will want to hold long term, etc. But hey, if you can go from $30 to $42 in a week, or if you bought it at $20, that's a 2x, that's a double your money in a week. You might want to lock in some of those profits. We've seen what could happen with the armory if you hold too long. Sometimes you just want to lock it in, and I imagine that actually kind of moving forward, it's going to progressively go down as supply does increase. However, I think that the overall rate of redemptions is going to be significantly less this time around and in the next few months than we saw last year, for instance. Last year, people were going crazy. Obviously, the bot farm's going crazy. You would expect, it kind of makes sense that if the ROIs are lower, that it just becomes obviously less profitable to run it as a bot farm, and maybe less people will be doing it. If we have a little look quickly on CSROI, of course, guys, as always, these are the statistical averages over an infinite data set, not guaranteed. The Spy Tech collection is actually sitting at 88% right now, as opposed to the Arabesque collection just at 70%. But these were down at like between 50 and 60% or something like that, or maybe 40 and 60% a week ago. And actually, I ran my own numbers through for all of the skins that I unboxed in my 1000 star unboxing, because I actually didn't sell a lot of the skins. I was going to use them in trade ups this week because I was buying more inputs, etc. And they've a lot of them are up 50%. Interestingly though, it is primarily the higher tiers that have performed best, with the exception, I guess, of the black box there. And okay, I guess you've got these two MAC-10 skins, but they're a bit unique. The Arabesque Mosaic is the only seriously pattern-based skin of the new set, really. And the MAC-10 video cam obviously has the live camera feel in the back, that kind of gimmick. I don't know if people really love it or not, but besides that, you'll see a lot of growth here with the purples and pinks. So yeah, the Phallic is here. The Lotus imprint, Ifrit Letice, Lapis Lazuli, these are all purples. The Smart Gun as well. Then you've got the Spiral Glitch here. It's a pink. So yeah, anyway, for me at least, it seemed like for example, there's no industrials here. There's no industrials, and there's a couple of mil specs. Like I think the Dark Operative, I guess, is a mil spec. That's crazy to me, man. People are buying this thing, and it just. I would genuinely just run the default, and I'm a skins guy, man. I'm a skins guy, and I would just prefer to run the default. But anyway, as I was kind of explaining last weekend, I kind of predicted that this would happen. Everyone has been hoarding stars for months. New collections drop. Historically, day one prices have been pretty high, especially if you looked at some of the OG Armory collections like Overpass or Spawn Field. Obviously, at that point, no one had any stars, so it was really, really low supply for some of the high-tier COVID items. Then everyone redeemed day one or day two, so pretty much the market just got flooded. People saw the low prices, they went to undercut it. It's just a knock-on effect pretty much, and a lot of people panic sold. I saw a lot of comments, a lot of people on the Discord pretty much saying that they sold on something that they've just seen gone up in price significantly over the couple days afterwards. Because you can imagine if the update dropped, why would people be waiting 4 days or 5 days to spend their stars, right? They would just spend it on day one or two. Then they all come off trade hold at the same time and market is flooded. Now, people who are buying into those cheap skins, those are now on trade lock for the next 7 days. So for that kind of 3-4 days in the middle of the week, where there's not many new skin redemptions coming onto the market, and all of the really cheap skins were purchased already, they're all on trade lock as well. Supply is tight, prices are going up, people are seeing prices going up, they start buying in because they fear of missing out. It's a crazy cycle, man. It's a crazy cycle. But I'm about to have a video coming up talking about the Armory Pass, what we've learned from this rotation, what it might look like moving forward, how we can take advantage. But yeah, it'll be super interesting to see. And yeah, I'm also still holding out. I'm not going to do them right yet. I think it's still a bit early looking at the overall supply numbers, and I'm sure CS Market Forum as well at some point will do some add to their existing charts on total Armory redemptions per collection. I would be very interested to see. Perhaps the redemptions day one will be higher than redemptions day one for some of the earlier collections like Train 2025, but I would imagine that it drops off pretty quick, and yeah, I don't think Spytech is going to be getting a lot of redemptions overall. However, the ROI is higher, so people are going to see that and go, okay, even though I prefer the Arabesque collection overall, numbers don't lie. So yeah, Overpass collection as well, down sitting at 50% right now. That is absolutely crazy. I have seriously considered buying some Overpass stuff, but I haven't pulled the trigger just yet. I still have a little bit that I was holding from pre-rotation, but to be honest, I didn't have much Overpass. I don't know. I just made a gamble and didn't go Overpass very heavy. I did a lot more Train and a bit of Spawn Field, more Spawn Field to be honest. Still pretty depressing to see the M4 fade price, but that's fine. It happens. You win some, you lose some. It's part of the game, always. So yeah, of course, just as a little morale boost for everyone, because as I've mentioned before, I try and stay optimistic about the CS market overall. There's many times where it feels like, it's going to shit, and I've had actually a couple of people private message me asking, what do you actually think about the CS market moving forward? Are all the YouTubers just fear-mongering? Like, for instance, the videos where Anomaly or someone is pretty much going I lost $100,000, I've had to sell my house or some shit like that, whatever it was. It's just crazy, man. A lot of big traders, for instance, and I could obviously say this myself, it is a hard thing when you kind of influence the space, and that's why I for instance, have very strong kind of moral stance on I'm not going to sell any of the items that I suggest people buy, because I could essentially artificially peak prices or whatever, pump prices, and I don't really want to do that. That's not how I'm trying to play the game, even though there's probably not really any legal repercussions like if I was doing it in the stock market. But I don't of course, some of my videos, it's the nature of YouTube, you have to have some level of interest, intrigue, some will call that clickbait, but I don't try and release videos that are overly gloomy about the CS market in general. I don't think it really helps. And as I was mentioning before, traders, especially big cash traders, and especially cash traders that have a large following, who can reach people by saying, oh, the market's dying, you should sell your skins to me at a really great discounted rate. They're just going to flip those skins. And if you can make a 10% margin, let alone a 15-20% margin, I've seen some of those videos. And actually in the past, when I've contacted certain traders to sell things, I've realized sometimes how bad the rates are that they offer. You obviously can take advantage of people who are new to the space, who don't want to install a Chrome extension, who don't want to use a trading site that they don't trust, obviously they have that kind of, they feel like they have a relationship with the creator or whatever. It can have a big impact on the scene overall when you've got a bunch of big YouTubers all saying that the market is dead, etc., etc. And look, there's obviously no denying the numbers. I'm not ignorant of the fact that many things are down at the moment, and as a result, people are a bit panicky and scared or whatever. But I always try and go against the pack, because that is where the biggest opportunities are, right? Like when everything is going good, we're in a bull market essentially. Everyone's happy to buy. They're buying. Things are going up. Buying. Let's buy more. We're going to spend more money. And then as soon as things start going down, inventory down 10%. Maybe now it's down 20%, 30%, etc. It doesn't really matter what the number is. I'm seeing so many people cash out skins that they would have had a ton of confidence in 4 weeks ago. And what really has changed in the last 4 weeks, or even in the last 6 months, that you think the CS market will be dead forever after this? Valve has made some significant changes that they haven't done in the past, and I totally recognize that. You can always say that now is unlike ever before, and it kind of has merit to it this time around, although the same thing happened when OP skins got shut down the first time, or all the gambling sites got banned, or we had the first kind of 7-day trade hold, let alone the 7-day trade protection, etc., etc. But look, if you believe in CS overall, if 6 months ago you said you would have wanted to hold these skins for 4 years, why are we still not holding them for 4 years? I don't see why not. I've got a bunch of Tech 9 whiteout. I'm not selling any of them at $250. Why am I selling them at $250? For all I know, next year they could be worth $1,000. Of course, some will argue they're going to be worth nothing or worth $10. But to be honest, that was the gamble I took when I bought them. I was very conscious of that. And I pretty much run my whole Steam profile or inventory on the premise that it could be worth 0 tomorrow and I wouldn't care. Obviously, I would care. I'd rather not lose probably 6 digits, definitely 6 digits worth of skins. But I know that it's an unregulated space. Valve has control. There's other, there's just risk factors there. That's why I don't have all my money in CS skins, and I have stocks and I have other investments, etc., savings accounts. You don't want to drop money that you need to spend to afford rent or food next week. So keep that in mind, and I think that'll also help you sleep better at night. I'm not really selling anything. I was planning on holding long term anyway. So yeah, we're kind of moving from there. Pricempire got an update this week as well. This is actually, I had a very brief trial with it, but this is pretty much the first time I'm looking at it, especially on the portfolio page. They've totally changed how it looks. It looks like kind of like skins now who bought out the site. So we're just going to have a little look, and bear with me if I take a moment to find myself. They have gotten rid of the recent 7-day changes. This is just the overall case index. So they've added some more time figures there, like filters or whatever, which is totally fine. I don't mind. This graph looks kind of, it looks clean or whatever. It's fine. But all of the recent performers, this is only the best and worst performer since in overall in the whole portfolio, not in the last 7 days. So I can no longer look at the recent cases with this method. At least I'm gonna have to find a new method. All right, so I think we might have to skip some of our index discussion this week because I literally don't have it anymore. That's a little disappointing. I was actually trying to look here. Is there a 7-day? There's a 24-hour, last 7 days. It's got a graph here, but it doesn't show me the percentage change. It only shows me the percentage change in the last 24 hours. Okay, so that's a little bit rough. I'm going to have to figure a new solution out there. Of course, I'm sure they're going to keep building on this site. It's just a big change, big makeover, so hopefully they're going to work on that. I don't mind how it looks, but they've just gotten rid of 95% of the data and functionality it had, it looks like. So obviously simplified it, but maybe a bit too much for the time being. One other thing I wanted to touch on quickly, not specifically related to CS skins, but just so you stay in the loop with all of the changes to Steam, and it kind of acts as a reminder if you ever want to look back on these episodes, or I want to look back on these episodes and see what was happening news-wise. Steam has just changed how gifts work. So essentially in the past, if you actually wanted to gift a game to someone else on Steam, you needed to have a Steam account. However, imagine you want to I don't know, your uncle to pay for a gift or something for your brother or for your friend, etc., whatever. They don't need to have a Steam account now. You can continue as a guest, and you can actually send a Steam game code, I guess, to any email. Doesn't matter whether that's the email registered with your Steam account. It will just give you a link to essentially claim the game that they're offering. So a couple of changes there, but in short, you don't need a Steam account to send game offers anymore. Let's have a little look then at the portfolio for this week. Pedro has actually given us a huge list of items to buy into this week. 20 Fever cases, 100 Budapest 2025 Contenders sticker capsules, 10 Dreams and Nightmares cases, and 5 field-tested UMP Crimson foils, on average price $3 for 1 unit. And actually, I was having a look at this myself the other day. Fever cases are down to just like 53 cents or something. Yeah, 53 cents still. That is crazy. Just to put things into perspective again, guys, it does cost 80 cents to redeem in the store with 2 armory stars, right? This is absolutely insane. Like, it was sitting at about 70 cents pretty consistently for many of the Prime months, for a long time, to be honest. You could probably argue for pretty much a year it was sitting around that 70-cent mark pretty consistently. A bit of variation, obviously, but down to 52 cents now. It's obviously a big question. How long is this case going to remain in the armory? Also, factors like if they add a knife terminal, will that decrease the popularity of this case? Potentially, because, well, it depends what the knives are, how popular they are. This is obviously just a very popular case because it's got some banger skins in it, and people love the skeleton Dopplers. Pretty much that's why I opened this case, I guess. So if the new terminal had, for instance, like Emerald, skeleton knife emeralds, which I don't think is out of the question, definitely not, then I could definitely see this decreasing in popularity. However, the 52-cent entry point is looking quite attractive. I think I will pick a couple of them up. Of course, I always work on the averaging principles, so even if it goes down, I'll buy some more and it'll bring our average down. But yeah, you get to reap a bit of the upside if it goes back up. You still get to pick up more for the same dollar spend at that cheaper price point. So I think we'll definitely buy into a couple at this 53 cents. Or you know what? I can even set up buy orders. 52 cents lot have been selling for. A bunch of buy orders set up at 51 cents. So I'm just going to set up a buy order at 52 cents. I'm almost sure it will get filled, so we can save ourselves a couple extra cents there. Why not? I need to figure out how this new transaction feature works. So Fever case, 52 cents. I think we'll pick up 10 of those today. I'm curious to have a look at the UMP Crimson foil, see how it's going. It's down to, we can get it $2.47 here. We might be able to get cheaper somewhere else. There's definitely the cheapest it's ever been. We're sitting at about $5 most of its life, and then even hit a peak of about $7 or $8. 3 months ago, it was selling for $4.47, so nearly halved in price. What is the... Hopefully, Float Database is working today. I remember last week we were having some issues with it. 250,000. There's only 62,000... in factory new. It actually doesn't seem crazy to me. I thought it was going to be significantly higher than that for some reason. 3 months ago, this was going for around that $17 mark. It's pretty much dropped 60%. We're now down at $6.46. I always just like to check as well what it's going for on a couple of different sites. $6, $6.37 on SkinSwap. There's a couple here for $6.08 on CS Money, and yeah, $6.28 on Trade. Okay, so actually on CS Money, I can get them for $6.08 right now. I know the recommendation was to go field tested, but I think I kind of prefer the factory new entry point. I think I'm going to add one of these in factory new. I'll come back to the Dreams and Nightmares because I'm always happy to add those at the moment, but let's have a little look at the Budapest Contenders capsule. It's currently sitting at just 14 cents. 11-cent buy orders, and actually a bunch of them are getting filled at 11 cents. I think I might once again set up a buy order at 11 cents. I don't think it's a big risk at 11 cents, to be honest. You've still got a couple banger teams in here. I think we'll get 100 of those at 11 cents. So let me set up that buy order. Boom. Sure has suggested Glock Moonrises and more Revolution cases. Have a little look at the Glock Moonrise. This is from the clutch case. It's actually been pretty steady. Curious to have a little look here. Of course, as well, the Glock Moonrise is a pattern-based skin. So if you're able to pick up one that has the star that you can see here, that would obviously be ideal. Probably they're going to demand some overpay on float, but also 300,000 Glock Moonrises. At the same time, how many of... We saw the Alt Phobos. What is the Alt Phobos doing at the moment, by the way? The Alt Phobos is now at $11.36. It was up at $17 a little while ago. If they're able to pump the Alt Phobos, they're definitely able to pump the Glock Moonrise. The main distinction, however, between those two is that the AWP Phobos is from the Gamma case, which is much older and is not being opened. I'm going to assume anywhere near as much as the Clutch case. Okay, the Clutch case is down here, so supposedly 450,000 opened this month. Gamma, yeah, only at 95,000. I thought the gap would have been bigger than that, to be honest. I'm surprised there are still close to 100,000 Gamma cases being opened a month. 167,000 Chroma 3 cases. That is crazy to me. Guys, gold trade-ups exist. If you want a knife, first off, just buy it. But even if you want to get it yourself, please just do the gold trade-up, man. If I could choose to drop like 10K on cases or 10K on the gold trade-ups for now, I'm taking the gold trade-ups every day. Much better in every regard. Really interesting to see though, this Glock has been like, I mean, it's definitely seen some variation, but it's not huge. And actually, it was sitting at, wow, it was sitting at $2.61 just after the souvenir trade-up change. Now it's at $3.60. So it's actually up over the last month or so, while the rest of the market's been heading the other direction. So it would be good to put a bit more information in that recommendation, so I know why exactly you like the Glock Moonrise. Look, I'll pick one up just for the sake of it. I'm not convinced on it, but if, hey, one day they decide it's going to $15, we can make a little, we could make a little return on it. What's the cheapest one here? $3.50, I think, right? It's this one. There was a $3.02 that sold a day ago. So maybe some of these buy orders, people are listing it cheaper. But anyway, that's fine. We'll just, we'll buy this one, $3.50. We also have from Big Mickey B M Dog. He's looking at cases and old collections again. I think they are good from here. Old collections without souvenirs. And also souvenir collection price differences. It could be good for trade-ups. I don't know. Like the 5.7 code is $8, but souvenirs 1.2 or something. So it could be some way of trade-ups found. Could be good to talk about. Case index again. Wish I could talk about the case index, except Pricempire has messed it all up. So this was a very, very broad suggestion by MDog. Old collections, essentially, operation collections that don't have a souvenir counterpart. So I've just come to St. Mark because obviously we saw that the Surfwood MAC-10 is going absolutely off right now. So definitely a good reminder. I'm going to go sell some of those after this, after I finish recording this. But if we have a little look, so it's crazy now. Obviously, that consumer is priced significantly higher than a bunch of these industrial skins. I think they've all got roughly the same. Yeah, this is all 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. So there's this sort of jungle thicket as well. I think I had a bunch of those in my inventory as well. $6.30 factory new right now, which is, from memory, I think roughly the price I purchased the MAC-10 Surfwoods at. Something like that. But I don't think we actually have any of these classic collections in our community portfolio whatsoever right now. So I'm just thinking it might be time to change that. Right now, actually, out of the consumers, the Barricade here is going for $10 factory new. That is significantly cheaper than any of the others. $32 for the Galil, $22 Scorched, $23 Redstone, $21 Famous Nightbore. Obviously, not a very popular weapon, but I don't think any of these people are really buying for play skins. But yeah, interesting as well, because it's got a 0 to 0.65 float range, which is larger than the Famous. Yeah, also these other ones are a bit weird. They start at 0.06, so something different, which obviously makes the factory new skins a lot rarer. Yeah, so to be fair, those three skins might have lower factory new supply than the Barricade, but doesn't mean it doesn't still hold some trade up value there. It's hard to say what is the right buy here without going and doing a full breakdown of all the numbers. Obviously, there's the St. Mark. I think I've just chosen one of these two. Neither of them have a souvenir collection. They're OG collections as well. Might be worth adding something. We've got, for instance, in the St. Mark, the Sunset Lily. This is an industrial 0 to 0.5 float range. And we've got the XM Banana Leaf 0 to 0.6. These are the two cheapest industrials from St. Mark. Hard to say whether the P90 or the XM is gonna do better, but same float range. No, not the same float range. XM Banana Leaf does slightly better there. It's also slightly more expensive. You could argue it either way. I think I'm just gonna go pick one of these up, and then with whatever money is left over, maybe I think I will pick up a Barricade. I think it's worth picking up an SG Barricade. So yeah, someone here has clearly listed a bunch all together, so I think we will pick up one of these. So that's at $10. Then for this Sunset Lily, we have pretty much got $14.20 or something left over from our weekly budget. $15.46, $14.75, $14.31. Okay, so this time around, the cheapest one is here. And the lowest float is this 0.0342. Unless there's a particularly low float here, I'm happy to overpay a little if I get a really good float. Doesn't look like it. If I go here, are any of them particularly good? Not really. So I think we will go for this 0.0342 at $14.31. Fantastic. We went 9 cents over budget this week. Totally fine. Totally fine. Another message as well, there's been some scammers on the Discord. Just be careful, guys. Unfortunately, I don't think there's much I can do about them. We try and ban them whenever we can, but they probably have a different account in the server that they use to monitor the new users, and then they add them from an account that looks like mine, an impersonator account. So just be very careful. I'm not going to message you. I'm not going to ask you to try and sign up for some random site or give me skins or anything like that. So just stay safe as always. Also, actually in the questions channel, Seto here is asking, why aren't you using old collections such as Gods and Monsters for your quest to a Blue Gem Karambit? Obviously, a slightly different topic, but I'm sure most of you guys are aware that I have an ongoing trade-up series where I'm trying to take essentially the money earned from a weekly drop, turn it into a Karambit Blue Gem trade-up, and I'm not using some older... Well, there's no reason I don't use any given collection. I'm not opposed to using any collection in particular. However, a lot of the older collections simply don't have much opportunity. The prices, the way that the prices have ended up over time, play skin demand, extremely low supply, just means the inputs are so expensive relative to the outcomes that you cannot find a consistently profitable combination. Of course, you can get lucky. Like if I put in a knight and I get a Dragon Lore, you can obviously make some money. But because the knight is so expensive, it's like 3K, and obviously you have to put in other low float fillers to get it to the Dragon Lore. In fact, you do 90% of the time you get something worth $100. The numbers just don't add up. So I'm not against using any collection in particular. However, most of those older collections just don't tend to have so many opportunities. And in fact, the most recently released collections often have the most, which is exactly why I've used, for instance, like the Chroma collection. I've used the Harlequin collection, the Ascent collection last year a lot. Even, for instance, Dead Hand, Genesis. Also, if you have a little look here, sneak peek for what's coming, soon, you can see a lot of Spy Tech skins here. I think if we go down, there should be, yeah, there's some Arabesque. You can see a bunch of the Eastern Enigmas here, the Phalanx as well. And I must admit, this Deagle skin, I did not like it at first. It is definitely the wrong model to inspect. It's definitely growing on me. I see more of the appeal of it now after playing with it a bit in game. But yeah, these are all, I bought all of these going for trade-ups, but actually a lot of them have doubled in price since I bought them. You can see also all of these Ifrit Letices, Lotus Imprints. So yeah, I've probably got 150 skins or something like that from the collections lined up for trade-ups in this week to come. So that's exciting. But yeah, that's why I use the new collections. More discrepancies in the pricing. Jay asks a very serious question: is it worth selling my soul to buy a Dragon Lore? Depends how much money you have right now and how much you like the Dragon Lore. Methox is asking, what are you guys doing with Overpass staff right now? Dumping or still expecting some rebound? To be honest, right now it's a little bit hard. I think if you were looking at what to do a month ago or something like even 2 or 3 months ago, like when the last chance message was added, obviously the prices started going down a lot because people realized it wasn't going to be taken out for like another 6 to 12 months or something like that. If you were selling maybe even a month ago, to be honest, like selling at any point, but potentially with the intention of rebuying, I think that's a totally fair call. It seemed reasonable that those prices would drop for a while, bottom out, and then probably go up a bit when it's getting close to rotation. I imagine that'll be when the new Fairy Tales collection drops, potentially with the new Premier season, or about November, December, I think is when I expect that to happen. But right now the prices are down a lot, and I'm not sure they're going to be dropping enough, like so much more that it's worth selling now to rebuy in a month or two. Like, I honestly imagine that buying in maybe 2 months or 3 months is the play if you want to gamble on it going up with a removal. Many people probably won't, but it's hard to say. I think there will be some rebound closer to its removal, or once it gets a last chance to buy message from where it is, but I'm not sure if it's worth the hassle. It also, again, just depends how many items you're dealing with. Like, sometimes when I buy thousands of things, I just can't be bothered with the logistics of it to rebuy. I'd just rather just have some patience. But yeah, for instance, I did sell a bit of Overpass stuff with the intention of I'm just going to spend the exact same amount of money in the future, but maybe I can get 5 Dragon Snores for the 4 I sold, something like that, you know? So yeah, a lot of my things, as I've said before, are intended to be long-term holds, so I'm not too fast if they go down for a month or two, you know. Also had a couple of people asking last week, this week, if they have received a kind of low float drop from the new Armory collections. For instance, Mugen here had an AUG signal scanner, which was 21st in the world, a 006 at the time. Should he sell for overpay? Any idea of what it might be worth? It's honestly very hard to say. Also, early on, like a 006 float is nice, but it's not particularly rare. Like, it's not going to say that number 21 for very long whatsoever, if even a day. So what I usually like to do if you're getting a low float drop, again, depends how low float. If it's just 00, you can maybe start it like at double the price of the base item and then just lower it by 10% each day until it sells or something. Again, heavily depends. Is the item just $1 base value, or is it $1,000 base value? Then obviously the like markup might be different. But I did get, for instance, some like Mystic Conjunction, those new Jewel Berettas, in like a 00 or 000 float, I think. And from memory, the normal one was selling for about 90 cents or something at the time, and I think I sold it for like $2.50 or something. So it's nearly a 3x there. But there is no set rule. There is no set rule, kind of like sticker price percentage. There's no set rule on how it works. I would say start with something close to what you think is the ideal, or if you can, obviously it's harder for new collections, but for other items, look at prior sales and see if anything at a similar float range, what they've sold for. Start at something like that and then just decrease until it sells, or look if there's a nice buy order you can potentially just lock in some profits with. All right, well, I think we might end it there for this week. Thank you to everyone who has been popping some messages in the Discord, suggestions for next week. Really appreciate it. Please join the Discord via the link in the description. Would love to hear what you guys have to offer. If you have any questions, let me know there. We'll be curious to see how the prices of the Armory trend this week. Yeah, I'm going to have a bunch of trade-ups coming your way very soon, so look forward to that as well. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening. As always, guys, really appreciate it. 4 months of the show, it's gone by so fast, and I will say thank you once again as well. We are actually approaching 1 year since I uploaded my first Counter-Strike video on the channel. Crazy how time flies, but it's absolutely incredible. The support is phenomenal, and as I said, has really changed my life. So you guys mean the world to me. Thanks for tuning in every week and listening to my rambles. And yeah, I guess we'll be back next Sunday for some more skin shenanigans. See you then.